Hi, my name is Clint Nowicke. I am 27 years old, and I'm originally from Louisville, Kentucky. I live about an hour and a half south of there for school. I'm a doctoral student at Eastern Kentucky University in clinical psychology. Um, that's really it. I have a pretty big family who are all comic book fans and geeks. Some more DC, some more Marvel. So we feud a little bit on that respect. So what I'd like to potentially sell is these 4 issues of Hawkeye that were made in the 1980s, the early 80s. And what is important to, or why these are important to me is that these are the issues in which Hawkeye becomes Marvel's first deaf character. Um, which, since he wears that goofy purple cowl, you can't really see his ears anymore, but he does end up wearing hearing aids for a long time. Um, but they're hidden by his purple cowl. But what's important to them, or what's important to me about them, is that I what am I trying to say? I'm looking to sell them now because comic book characters with disabilities is a conversation that I don't think happens often enough, and there's totally room for characters with different abilities. Something that drives me absolutely insane that a lot of comics do is that they'll introduce a character with a disability, but then at the same couple issues later, something happens and they are fixed, or they have something that can negate that disability. Like Matt Murdock is blind, but then can also kind of see with his abilities. Barbara Gordon is paralyzed from waist down, and then a couple issues later, or maybe not a couple, but at some point gets fixed, but they don't even explain why. Um, and it looks like, based on the 2012 Hawkeye comic series, that's he's going to stay deaf, which is fabulous. I have a cool story about the 2012 issue. Is that I actually created the name sign for Hawkeye. It's this. It's the letter H on your forehead. Um, and it got used in the comic. In the very last comic, one of the characters signs "Thank you, Hawkeye," and that's the one that they use. Uh, Another cool tidbit is the hearing aids that Hawkeye gets at the end of that series were based off of mine, um, which is another cool connection there. I think we have the same name, kind of. Clint Nowicke and Clint Barton are not quite the same. And I also have a brother named Charles, and so does Hawkeye. So there's a lot of cool little connections to Hawkeye that I have that make part of the reason that I like him. But we also have very similar personalities, and um, I'm also the only deaf person in my family, and he's also one of the few deaf characters. There's another one named Echo, but he is for a long time was the only one, and he also wears hearing aids, which is something I greatly appreciate. So I think that there's plenty of room for representation of people with disabilities in comics, and if I were to sell these um, at the store, one, it would be great to have these conversations with people who know a lot more than I do outside of Marvel. Um, with like DC and Image, I don't know too many of the characters, so it'd be great to have that conversation with people who are knowledgeable about other characters who might have disabilities in those companies. And I think that kind of giving that topic space to be talked about is very important. So, um, in terms of how much I would like for it, like $200. I'm not. I'm really easy on that. um, so that's kind of why I would like to sell them, is to have that conversation. Uh, I really appreciate y'all's time, and I look forward to hearing from you. Bye.